watching the Letterman podcast with Mike Chisholm, endorsed by the Hello Deli.
Yeah.
La, 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 la.
Once again, welcome to the Letterman podcast. My name is Mike Chisholm. I am so excited to do this show. If you've listened to 2 or 3 of these in a row, you know that I open the program saying that every single time. I am so excited about this project. I am so excited to be somebody who gets a chance to sit first row with some of these amazing people. We're celebrating the greatest body of broadcasting work in history, that of David Letterman and Company. The company is very good, and we just appreciate them so much. And boy, do we have, every episode is a good one, and I know I say that every single time, but boy, do we have a good one today. We got a guy on today that there's a lot of vicariousness, I think, in the Letterman enthusiast community. A lot of folks wish that we could have been part of the family, the team, the crew, at the various incarnations of the evolution of David Letterman and his broadcasting history. Here's a guy who was there, in the formative years. And we talk about the idea of the pyramid being built. That pyramid had a tremendous foundation. That foundation, of course, was late night. And I love talking to the writers, these people who channeled the voice of Dave, the voice of the show, and were able to put out content that just was, it's so funny because it matched the voice of the show, but it was also unique and had its own, creative place out there as well. And really, at the end of the day, late night was the bottom part of that pyramid. Now, the guy that we're going to have on here, I have a special amount of personal vicariousness with, because he didn't just work for late night. Amazing stuff with late night. Flunky the Clown, by the way, and many other little very cool memorable moments out of late night came from the mind of Jeff Martin. But more so, he went on to work for the Simpsons. He was one of the Harvard guys, by the way, the Harvard stereotype, Harvard writer stereotype. This is one of those guys we're going to talk to about that. The Simpsons. And then, I mean, for me personally, I've expressed my love for Norm MacDonald, fellow Canadian. I just, he's had a chance to work with Norm. He had a chance to work with Craig Fergusson, who I love. We've talked about him a little bit on this show as well. Many other things. And for those who are big podcast enthusiasts, you might know the history, the lore of a little show that was created and then tinkered with to the point where it was no longer on the air, but the original concept and the original idea for it was pretty cool, with a pretty amazing public figure, Hardball. This is the creator of Hardball. For those who know what I'm talking about, they know what I'm talking about, because there's a gentleman out there who talks about this show quite a bit, actually. So anyway, I'm really excited. I'm honored, in fact, to be able to spend a little bit of time with Jeff Martin. Jeff, thank you so much for taking time out of your day. You got the Mark Maron thing going on. You're in the garage today. I assume that's so we will be uninterrupted until the wife gets home.
That it's I'm in the garage because this is actually my office somehow. But yes, I my wife asked me, how long are you going to be doing this? And I said, maybe 2 hours. And she said, what? How could you talk for that long? And I say, no, believe me, that this podcast, I think we can go on that long.
I think we can too. I really do. I just want to start out by thanking you for taking time out of your day to come on here, and thank your wife for giving you up for that amount of time as well. My wife likes to kick me into the garage too for a couple hours here and there as well, and get some quiet.
Well, I want to say I'm looking forward to it, because you just invited me last week, and I said sure, let's do it. And so I listened to a few, and I really liked. I listened to. Well, the Steve O'Donnell and Fred Graver, Dave Rogalski, Jerry Mulligan, who I shared an office with for years, and you bring great enthusiasm to it. And I when Dave retired, I did just a couple of interviews, like on Lawrence O'Donnell's show on NPR. They'll call.
Yep.
you have a couple of minutes and you say, yes, well, Dave certainly introduced irony into the talk show format, and that was very influential going forward. And already they're well, we're about out of time. Thank you for your insight. And I listened, and you just bring great enthusiasm to it, and just everything those guys talked about triggered a memory for me. And I remember those days so clearly. And I just thought, okay, there's lots of trivial, granular details about the show that for a wider audience, for the average person, maybe aren't of deep interest. But for this podcast, it's like, okay, let's get in the weeds. You're talking about Rick Sheckman, Kathleen Ankers. Let's talk about Anton Fig before we're done. Anything you want to cover. No detail too small. And unlike Fred Graver, I don't have a heart out. Next time I talk to Fred, I'll
Wasn't that funny? Like, and well, okay.
Well, you kept saying, "Now, Fred, you've got a heart out," and I want to get in touch with Fred and say, "What was your heart out, Fred?"
No, man. Like, okay,
you
so
wanted
this
in
is the dude
surgery.
who's
What's
now
going on?
this is the dude who's now programming AI communication, and literally came in. Similar sentiments, and oh, by the way, thank you very, very much for those sentiments. I appreciate that. If I don't have a lot of skill set, if I do have something, enthusiasm is certainly near the top of the list. There's no question. Many people enjoy that. Some people are just completely turned off by it. But so
Well,
I appreciate you saying that.
Knowing all those guys you interviewed, I think I can guarantee they really did enjoy remembering those special days, and I'm certainly eager to. And though the other thing was Dave Rogalski,
Yes.
he was talking at one point about, well, the guys I'd been there with had all left. Chris Elliott and Adam Resnick had left for to do Get a Life, and Matt Wickline, Sandy Frank were doing In Living Color, and Kevin Kern had left to do Married with Children, and and I'm waiting to hear my name. And he goes, who else was there? And I'm waiting, still waiting. So
still waiting.
Yeah, we like to think we're memorable, but I guess not. And just talking about I just listened to Steve Young's this morning.
Yep.
And I've met him in passing once or twice, and certainly he has a great reputation. And I knew Steve O'Donnell, who I keep in touch with and have lunch with often. I knew he thought very highly of him, but I felt like that was the first extended visit I'd had with Steve. And he said, when he first came into Letterman, which is 2 months after I left, Steve said, well, let's get you an office. And he said, here's one. And there was a box of records, a couple of boxes of records there. And oh, well, the guy who was here before did Dave's record collection. Maybe you do it now. And I'm going, that was me. That was my office. So
led to a very, very interesting rabbit hole for a very interesting guy. That guy went down that rabbit hole hard, leading to a book, leading to a documentary. Isn't it funny how these little echoes can lead to reverberating sounds over the years?
Totally.
So cool. I'm going to go back and forth.
We can talk about Dave's record collection if you like. We can talk about whatever you want.
I appreciate this so much. Let's go back to by the way, I was talking about Joe Rogan earlier. Boy, what a different life it would have been if Hardball would. Rogan talks about how that show, great idea, great concept, great, everything at the beginning was great. And then the narrative that I understand is that network executives came in and started tinkering with things and changing things all around. Is that true?
Yeah, that's roughly true.
Okay.
And it was also it was came out in 1994. I was approached by Fox to do. You want to do a baseball comedy? Yeah, I'm a big baseball fan, and you'll probably see that in the course of this talk. It was kind of how I bonded with Letterman initially. But they approached me in 1994 to do a baseball comedy, and baseball fans will know 1994 wasn't that the year of the baseball strike?
Yeah.
Yes, it was. So. Many projects are snake bit. I think that's how Jim Downey described the new show.
Yep.
Which will always be my favorite show because it siphoned off many of the original Letterman writers and opened up those precious slots. And I was lucky enough to get one. back in 1990.
I appreciate where we're going here because, and I wasn't just doing it to name drop Joe Rogan. This is a project that you did after Letterman. Dave Rogalski, who you mentioned, one of the things that he talked about was the idea that there might have been, my words, I'm paraphrasing, but kind of a hole in the bottom of the boat where these writers would be working with, the Pants team at that point. This cohesion was there, and then of course all these other opportunities would arise for people who worked on the show. He thought that Dave expanded his production company so he could potentially keep, that's his theory, so he could potentially keep people there, Hardball being one of the projects that you had when you left the show. You made your bones at late night, there's no question. But before that, Harvard, you're one of these guys. And I mean, the Simpsons poked fun probably. I remember Krusty the Clown throwing books at Harvard writers in the face and things like that. The Harvard joke.
That you eggheads, like that kind of thing. Yeah.
Right. Yes. You're one of those guys. You were part of the Lampoon.
I was. I got on the. I was class of '82 at Harvard. Got on the Lampoon, and I just loved it. It was all I cared about at Harvard. I got on, and other guys in the staff was Tom Gamble, who I thought was Letterman writer, of course.
Yep.
Et cetera, who I just thought was the funniest guy I ever met. Unless it was Andy Borowitz over there, who writes for the New Yorker, or maybe it was Mike Reese, who was in my dorm. All these guys are good friends to this day, which is probably the main thing. Just to get a bunch of lifelong friends. But it was a gang of people who were just very committed, for good or ill, to exploring a comedic premise. Just all the way to the end, and just laughing was very important to them. And I didn't love it in any pre-professional way. It was just I was just very happy to hang out there and laugh and try to make them laugh. And Conan got on.
That would have been your last year of Harvard. Conan shows up.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
that's absolutely right. And also my last year of Harvard, the Letterman show goes on. I'd always been interested in comedy. My dad had, Bob and Ray albums, Bob Newhart, watched a lot of TV, loved it. But part of you sort of correctly intuits that these shows are made by a different generation. Guys who made their bones doing USO shows.
Yep.
In World War II. I'm not kidding. I mean,
the ones who were led by Bob Hope, who Bob Hope was kind of their guy.
Absolutely. It shows like it was just done by a different generation. And then when things like Saturday Night Live, I think, was very much this is satirical about early TV, and just the sense of, this is more made by people closer to my age. You could just sort of sense it. And Jim Downey was such the trailblazer in terms of you could make a living doing this. Guys like Howard Stern and Jerry Seinfeld have talked about how important Mad Magazine was to them.
Yes.
That adults can be silly.
Yes.
You don't necessarily have to grow up. And so Downey working at Saturday Night Live. And then my second semester, senior year, Letterman came on, and right away, like so many people roughly my age, it was like, yep, this is another one. We've been waiting for this, and we can talk about what it was about the show. But then Tom Gamble and Max Pross get hired on it. Guys who I'd met and only known but bonded with.
Were they a little older than you?
Oh yeah, they're like 5 years older than me.
Did that blow your what did you go to Harvard to study? And when you saw them get hired there, did that kind of expand your young mind going, oh my gosh, I could actually write my own ticket with something that I want to do?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, totally.
What a great feeling that must have
been.
No,
I didn't go to Harvard with any plan, and I did not know the Lampoon existed.
Wow.
Yeah. Went to a comp meeting and right away, like as I've said,
Yeah.
fell in love with it and didn't care about anything else during my youth.
It's interesting how we talk about the the idea of a sandwich generation, and I mean, you were kind of at Harvard. When it comes to comedy, you're honing in who you are and what you want to be, who you want to be. You've got a sandwich generation with these guys that are older, influence things. Wow. They go and do something that as a freshman, you probably didn't even fathom being able to do as a vocation. And then, you get there, you're there for a few years, and your last year, Conan shows up. That's a pretty good sandwich that you were in, and a pretty neat explanation of the tradition of people who came out of that program as well.
Oh, well, yeah. So, Letterman and The Simpsons was at all times majority Harvard Lampoon guys.
Yeah.
Including guys who were in my dorm, like Mike Reese and Al Jean. John Vitti was in the next dorm over, but
Al Jean was in your dorm.
Yes, absolutely.
Wow.
Groomsman, John Vitti. And, these guys remain among my very best friends to this day. So what a blessing.
So you were an English guy. You majored in English. Don threw that up at me right now. By the way, Don Giller, for the viewers and listeners, Don Giller is here. The computer is on, feeding me stuff as well. So always an interest in writing then? Just didn't know how to apply it?
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, like in my high school and stuff, I wrote pep rally skits and stuff like that. I mean, I suppose I was the leading comedy writer at my high school, but there was no competition, and I would have traded it in for being good at football or something like that. But yes, it's just how you're built. For some reason, this is important to you, and you're passionate about it, and to suddenly be in a gang of people that felt exactly the same.
Yes.
Ian Fraser, New Yorker writer, he's written several books.
Yep.
I remember in one, he was extremely close friends with Jim Downey when they were on the Lampoon. And him talking about being on the Lampoon said, Jim Downey, who was so funny, it was like falling in love. And sounds corny, but
no, it's not.
It is simply true.
When you find your tribe, there's no feeling like it. I completely identify with what you're saying. Where I got my podcasting chops is I host a men's mental wellness podcast. My wife is building a men's mental wellness app, her and her team, called He Changed It, and I host HeCast. It's kind of the only way that I can contribute. I married up. I don't know about you. You married the creator of shows and things like that. I don't know about you. I married up.
Yeah, my wife Suzanne Martin is. I think she keeps a low profile, but I think she might have gotten on the air more situation comedies than I think any female ever, perhaps.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. So my wife is, your wife is breaking barriers in the entertainment world and doing things with a low profile. My wife is trying to change the world and make this place better for men. That's where I got my podcasting chops from. And I talk to, if I have any, I talk to these counselors and these psychologists and these people in front of me, and they talk about guys who are in middle age, and many of them haven't found their purpose, and that's why there's a lot of these problems that are happening, health problems and things like that. So you're not being corny even a little bit. I take very seriously what you were just saying there, because when somebody has a light bulb moment, knowing that they are where they're supposed to be or with who they're supposed to be, and they have that moment of clarity, if you want to call it that, there's no feeling like it. You got it in your late teens, early 20s, and that is a very special, very rare thing. I can feel the gratefulness coming through here. Oh, by the way, did you play softball at Harvard?
Softball? No, I played baseball in high school. I played baseball in high school.
Okay, because I was also told on the Letterman softball team, you were a ringer, level quality player.
I played baseball in high school, and when I moved to New York City after graduation, I got a job at the baseball desk at the Associated Press. I was a clerk, took them, which was across the street from it was in Rockefeller Plaza, across the street from 30 Rock. And when Steve O'Donnell gave me the call and I went in, and at a certain point, Dave came in, I think just to make sure he could tolerate me. And I was telling him,
Sure.
yeah, I work at the baseball desk, and but if I get this job, I'll quit. And Dave said, well, hope we can expect the same loyalty. And I stole that line for a piece I wrote, a good year or two later, where Joe Fury had just come on to work at the show as welcome a new staff member and all that. So I stole that line for that. But Dave was a baseball fan. I knew a lot. And so, if people say, what was your relationship about like with Dave? Very cordial. And in all honesty, we talked a lot about baseball.
Oh, that's awesome. Is he a Reds fan?
He was, yeah. And I remember one time so when you were growing up, I guess like Joey J was on the pitching staff. Yeah, that kind of thing was got some cred with him. Well, it was good. I got through a very enjoyable baseball season in 1983, and football season was starting up, and it would have become quickly clear to the guys at the Associated Press that I knew very little about football. Much more.
You can only fudge your way through so much.
Yeah, exactly. So the Letterman offer came along. It was very well timed. It would have been welcome at any time, but one more reason. So my first day on the job was Halloween of 1983. And I
can't believe you haven't done a ton of these because I mean you're doing such a good job of keeping me on the rails and all of that. 83 you started, so really,
you wanted to go right to hardball. I was like, really? You want to talk about a failed?
Okay, except for the fact that it featured the most popular broadcaster on the planet now.
Yeah, isn't that something?
Isn't that something? And how things come full circle and failure, you talk about the idea of failure. You don't fail, you're either winning or you're learning, and certainly you would have gone through a lot of that your first few years there. 83, the momentum had started by that point. You were already at the point where it's like, holy cow, like the folks who like the morning show, the cult kind of following, all of that. But by 83, late night was already had a ton of momentum. It was Steve who brought you in. Do you remember anything about the interview with Steve?
Well, I knew Steve just a little. Well, from being on the Lampoon, I was on those guys' radar as maybe somebody with potential. And Downey had told me that he wanted me, at a certain point. It was just so I sent in a packet and. Just got the call out of the blue from Steve. We really liked your latest packet. Can you come in and talk? And just that was the greatest break I ever got.
Did you apply for the new show as well?
No.
You didn't. There you go. Well, Conan famously, talks about how, there was two places I want to work, either Saturday Night Live or for David Letterman, and sent basically two. The lore is he sent two packets out. Was that similar to you as well? Or did you have a whole bunch of stuff that was out there?
Well, for some reason, I didn't send a packet to SNL. I don't know why. Not organized enough, probably. But when you said it, for those guys to go work at Letterman, it wasn't just thinking, I'd like to do something like that. No, I'd like to do exactly that.
This is where you're preaching to the choir. There's a whole bunch of vicariousness, which I referred to in the intro. There are a whole bunch of people out there who see over the decades, regular people who came in and became interns, who then would become, big time writers with the show, or big time production people with the show, Barbara Gaines being a prime example of that. And there's a lot of people out there, myself included, who, if I could have had even an inkling that was a possibility of what I wanted to do. What do you think about the show? Like, I always say it's because Dave broke the fourth wall and showed the family. That's where, to me, if I'm to dissect the magnetism of what it was that you guys were doing, where there is that kind of loyalty that folks who loved what you guys were doing had. What do you think was the magnetism that has this tight-knit fandom that just won't go away?
Well, I'll hit it from a couple of angles. I mean, when Letterman retired, Conan wrote an essay about when the show first came on, and he said something to the effect of everything was wrong.
Yes.
And yet it was all right. And what he meant, it's sort of like, okay, Letterman he's nice looking, but he's got a gap in his teeth, and he's wearing a suit like a talk show host, but he's also got sneakers on.
Yes.
And just there were just contradictions abounded that he seemed, well, just that someone who seemed averse to backslapping.
Yes.
And had wanted the schmooziest job there was.
Yes.
To be a talk show host.
Yes.
And every talk show host, more or less to that point, had been, hey, it's great to be here. We've got some great stars. Everything is great.
Celebrating show business.
Yes, celebrating show business. And Dave, would revel in the awkwardness, would occasionally seem cranky, which especially at the beginning of the show, he was a young curmudgeon. Which, and he was parading stars out, and yet you could sort of tell he was thinking, this is a little ridiculous, isn't it? Show business.
Yep. Worshiping
of celebritydom. So, I mean, when he would talk on the show about like, so many great shows with marvelous stars. He would say marvelous stars.
With a smirk.
Yes, and it was so funny coming from him because you knew it wasn't heartfelt. And okay, basically the first thing I remember writing for the show is after I got sent in the office, Steve said, hey, we do these promos every night, and we would record them during a break in the show, and they would toss them on the air one time during prime time.
Yep.
It was just a little 10-second thing, and it would just be tonight on late night, Charles Grodin, Terry Garr, and Stupid Patrick. So join it, and then just a little phrase, a little half joke, and I wrote, so join us, won't you? The password is fun.
You know what's funny about that is I could actually hear Alan Coulter say that. Like, that's something, like, there's DNA from late night that did make its way over to late show, even though it's, a lot of people, it's almost even polarizing a little bit. That is something, though, that in the Act 5, Alan Coulter, the announcer, I could say the password is fun. That is something that I think went all the way through that little bit of cynicism or sarcasm.
Just irony, and another contradiction is Dave is someone, compulsively ironic, especially in those early years, who would let you know how he actually felt.
Yep.
And the contradictions. People would say he was mean in those days, that the guest was the hot seat. And it's like, well, actually, he's sort of scrupulously polite.
Yeah.
He certainly was with people who wanted an autograph and stuff like that. Something I did, a very admirable thing about Letterman is whenever anyone would ask for an autograph, he was always very, very polite. And I got the idea that he told himself it would be very wrong and immoral to pull a star trip with people, to act like I was, not just another man,
right,
because I happen to be famous. And that was something I always liked about him.
I appreciate that about
he's-
him too. However, many times, I don't know if it's a difference if someone asks them to personalize it or not. But there are many times where there's that mischievousness where he will put the autograph right over his face, which I love. I love that. By the way, I've got a couple. This one here is autographed, and when it, when Dave's guy went back to get it from him,
Mhm.
I thought it was going to come back to me with the autograph on the face, and silently I was like, do I want that or do I not want that? And
want it.
because
You want it.
go ahead.
I think you want it, don't you? That would be a personal touch, if you will.
Yeah. It's now that being said, the first big content that you got on the show was the viewer mail segment, right? We talked about that. By the way, everybody out there, go to the official Letterman channel to watch Jeff's favorite moment segment. It's really, really good. It does a really good sampling of some of the things that Jeff did, things that he wrote, things that he enjoyed, because there's a couple segments on there that were before his time, and then also a bit of performance chops as well. And we're going to get to that as we go through this as well, because you do have that performer in you as well. I'm going to ask you about that. But the first major thing you got on was, like many writers who are new to the show, the viewer mail is a perfect place to kind of to set a volleyball so you can just come in and figure out something creative and spike it, right?
Yeah, no, I really enjoyed doing viewer mail because, yeah, when people said, oh, are those letters real? And it's like, yeah, absolutely they are. And thank goodness, because you didn't, you weren't facing a blank page.
Yep.
You just read a letter and I remember there was a 60 Minutes where Leslie Stahl, I think, asked Jerry Seinfeld, where do you get the ideas for Seinfeld? And Jerry said, you think I know where ideas come from? And I'm going to now tell that to the world. So of course there's, ultimately something mysterious about it all. But yes, something like viewer mail, it was a great relief to you read things and just every now and then something would spark. And of course, well, that's how Flunky the Clown came about. Was I think the letter was something like, "Dear Dave," or Flunky, who actually reads these letters. And you're like, I suppose, it was Flunky. Yeah, maybe that's a clown name, and did it and played okay. And at the end of it, Dave said something like, "Well, thanks for bringing laughter into the world," and I just sort of ad-libbed, "Yeah, right." Without looking up, and that got a better laugh. And so, okay, we had a repeatable character that, it's nice to have something that devoted fans of the show do remember. And actually, when I went to the Simpsons and met Matt Groening, my first day of work there, after a minute or two, a light bulb went on, and he said, "Hey, you're Flunky." He just recognized the voice, and I got the same thing from Patton Oswalt one time. So there you go.
That's fantastic. Matt Groening to me is a legend as well. I mean, I love the Life in Hell comics. I was a kid who, by the way, you touched on something that I also 100% identify with, because I was an 8-year-old. See, I'm a 76 baby. Okay. So 87, 88 was when I was doing the sleepovers at friends' houses and stuff, and we would stay up late, or my dad, we had one TV in the house. We didn't come from money at all, so we had one TV in the house in the family room, and I would hear my dad after Carson go to bed, and I would drink water before I went to bed, so I'd have to have a restroom break, and I hopefully timed it that Letterman was on and my dad was in bed, and I would go and watch the TV this far away from it, because I loved it so much, because the idea of adults acting silly captivated me. I loved it so much. And you guys actually introduced me to that concept, the idea that was possible. And I fell for it. I loved it so much.
I wrote down a quote here from Bill Simmons, the sports guy. He also wrote an article about Letterman when he retired. And this isn't me flattering myself, but the quote is, that NBC show lifted an imaginary rope and allowed me into a little club, the Funny Club, created for the people who understood comedy better than everyone else. And I thought that was a nice quote. And again, I'm not paying myself a compliment, because that's how I felt about the show just watching it the year and a half before it got there.
Well,
And
okay.
it was maybe less surprising to me because I knew Gamble and Pross and George Meyer and Jim Downey
Yep.
and Steve a little bit, you know, some more than others, but I knew these were the funniest guys I'd ever met, and so I wanted to be a part of it. And my God, the use of words
Yes.
on those early episodes, I can just quote so many, just a couple things on like the new gift items. There was one, the turkey carving helmet, where the intro was. Only a lucky few have 3 hands, but that's what you need to carve a turkey properly. And I would just watch. There was, do you remember the Praying Hands Raceway? It's
Yes.
so hard to get children interested in faith and religion. Well, now Albrecht Dührer's masterpiece of devotion is a thrilling action set, and I would just I would watch those and you know, I'm just a words guy, you know.
Me too.
And it was just I want to be a part of that. And with Letterman, they had the perfect guy for that, because as often comes up, and as people have often said, that Letterman was a broadcaster.
Yes.
And that's just in terms of speaking into a microphone and only a microphone. He'd had practice at it. He enjoyed it a bit. I wrote twice. It was Dave referring to his old radio show. It was viewer mail bits, almost surely, and it was just, we'd do it like an old radio show, with you know, Larry Bud Melman entering and you know, applause, just like the Jack Benny show, like something like that. Canned laughter. And you know, Larry's quit his job. Dave, well, you know, too many injuries. What? How can someone hurt themselves raking leaves? And Larry says, oh, I kept falling out of the tree. You know, canned laugh. And Letterman would like ad-lib, like, why you? And now I should hop ahead to say we only did it twice because it maybe just a little too static. To play. So they only played okay, and it's like, gosh, you know, and it's I wish it had done better, because they were very fun to do, to record them in rehearsal, and I just got a very clear sense that Dave is very happy talking.
That's your first year in. That's January 12th, 84 was when that aired, by the way.
Wow.
So you know, you're there. That's your first year, like within the first year of you being there, seeing this stuff happening. I just appreciate so much that we talk about. Okay, so you're evolving something here, and go ahead.
Well, you know something I wanted to, when you were saying that you were up late at night.
Yeah.
And, you know, yes, and I kind of pulled a Ringo with Letterman and the Simpsons. I moved into an entity that was well established and ready to take off in a big way, and I hopped on, and you know, I like Ringo. I contributed, but I was never one of the main geniuses at the center who created it. But anyway, I the fact that when I first came on, like people didn't get VCRs till 85, 86, and that sort of thing. And I was constantly astonished that everyone saw these things.
Yes.
I'll share one. Let's see. Did something where somebody wrote a bit where they compared the top of Dave's head, said it looked like he had a hamster up there, and Paul Schaefer had laughed and, you know, said, like, I called him hamster head. Okay, like that weekend we go out for the Emmys, and we happened to win that year, and we're making the rounds of the press. It's all very exciting, and people out across the street on the other side of the sawhorses, you know, Letterman walks by and someone calls out, you know, hamster head. And those sort of things. Jerry Mulligan and I talked at colleges for a while, and did a little lecture circuit, a dozen colleges, and you bring up anything. People would ask, say like, well, there's the time Crispin Glover came on the show.
Of course.
Do the karate kick at Dave's head, and just the whole audience, there'd be that, oh yeah,
Yep.
saw it. And it's all very flattering, but it's also like, that was on at 1:15 in the morning.
Yeah.
What were you all doing? Don't you people have jobs? Well, not college students, but I'm just amazed how many people saw this stuff. Yeah, we did just one more along those lines. We did a top 10, I think it was top 10 home run calls, new home run calls, and number.
That's a great premise.
Touch them all and stuff like that. It was before the World Series, and the number one was the only one was Elvis has left the building.
There you go. Perfect.
It was the 1987 World Series, and Kent Herbeck hits a grand slam in that World Series, and they're panning the crowd, and someone holds up, and someone is holding up a sign saying Elvis has left the building, and you just you can't believe the stuff got out there and had that much impact. And well, my goodness, multiply that by 10 with the Simpsons.
Well, oh yeah. Well, and I mean, I've told a couple of people that this conversation is happening today, and I mean, there's so many questions that kind of got thrown at me. Oh, asking about this about the Simpsons, all that. Yeah, the prediction tool of the Simpsons and all that. Crazy. How this observational group of people, all they're doing is observing things, and it comes across like they're reading the tea leaves, but really at the end of the day, a lot of it's common sense. By the way, I got to tell you, you're on brand, just so you're aware. Even the staff moments, I don't know how Walter edited it. I don't think he did it out of order, though. The first thing you do is you talk about other people and how great they are, and you diminish what you did yourself. Ringo, by the way, a hell of a drummer. I mean, but everybody in Letterman's crew, with maybe the exception of Morty. I'm kidding, Morty. I'm just kidding, buddy. It's okay. Morty doesn't watch the show. We're going back and forth a lot, actually.
I'm such a baseball fan and such a Beatles fan. I mean, they'll always come up at some point in a conversation. And got to meet Ringo through I saw he was on the Letterman show. Yeah. And like, I am going to write a cold opening involving Ringo, so I get to meet him. And I did. And I wrote one where Anton Fig comes in the dressing room, and Ringo's, Anton, I haven't seen you since we were kids. How are you doing, Ringo? What's up? Well, let's see. I was in the Beatles. Goes, oh, they were very popular. And made a dozen movies, and now I'm married to Barbara Bach. Good for you. Letterman's listening to this in the background. How about you? And Anton says, just got out of prison. Ringo goes, well, nice seeing you, and he leaves. And Dave, Anton, why didn't you tell him I was you're the drummer for the show? And Anton says, I was ashamed. So I met Ringo. I met him again when he did The Simpsons, when he was on the one where Marge painted his portrait.
Yeah. Oh my God, that was what a fantastic episode that was.
And
I put it on me wall.
And yes, I hung it on me wall. And we just put as many Britishisms, and I was, I said, would he say, thanks, forgive the lateness of me reply? And, Ringo said, forgive the lateness of me reply. That doesn't work. And we talked about Yellow, he says, so, just thinking of something to say. So you've been animated the Beatles cartoons and Yellow Submarine? And he goes, Yellow Submarine was better. Even I know that. Okay, so Conan, who remains a very good friend, he was going to be on Conan several years ago, and he said, you want to come to rehearsal? Yes, I do. And
yes, I do.
Yes, I do. And he and Conan, they rehearsed Act Naturally, and I, he says hello, and I told him, oh, well, you did the Letterman show, you did The Simpsons, and he, laughing, said, I remember so well, which was his way of saying, I don't remember.
I have no clue. Yep.
I meet thousands and thousands of people, and it means so much more to them than it does to me. Nice.
That's many of you guys, by the way, just again, to go back, that's many of you guys. Like, I'm looking at this going, okay, this conversation to me is a dream come true. You'll, of course, we'll forget about it in about 45 minutes after the program's over. Hamsterhead, September 18th, 87. And Ringo was June 20th, 1989. Right around the time you were getting ready to depart at that point. But let's go back to what we were just talking about here. When you met Chris Elliott for the first time, did you just want to talk his ear off about Bob and Ray?
I don't know. I don't want to bother people. I think
that's why, by the way, that's why I have this show. I have no problem. I have no filter bothering people. That's how I got this thing.
It might be why I got along with Dave. Is he'd ask me about so what do you think? Ray Knight, think he should have taken the Mets offer, just he was first baseman for the Mets. In those days. And we'd keep it very light in that direction. It was interesting, like listening to in those early days when Fred Graver said he'd gone into producer Barry Sand and said, like, how am I doing on the show? And Barry said, you're doing fine. Never come ask me that again. And it's like, and the funny thing is, I found out later that I was not on the most solid ice during those first 13 weeks.
Wow.
Well, look, I was 22.
Yep.
I was, very green. I'd bring in my share of half-baked ideas.
Sure.
Just like, hey, there was Night of 100 Stars. Let's do Night of half a dozen stars. Only it'll become clear in the course of the show we only got like 4. It just throwing stuff. Hey, for the Christmas, let's do a golfer's Christmas. And Calvert will be dressed as Santa, and he'll say the stockings were hung by the chimney with care, in hopes that Jack Nicklaus soon would be there, and we'll dissolve too. And things that okay, all right, maybe that's kind of, but and as with so many others, Steve O'Donnell was like very nice about, well, we have to think about, how that would play out after the initial laugh, and how your raw ideas may or may not work, so, but I naively, I think I was like the lead in a romantic comedy where I think I just felt like, I love this so much that it must love me back. Yeah, was my naive hope. In those days, I would actually, boy, it's crazy to remember that I would actually stay after the day's work and go into the room where they had the old videotapes, and I would load, they were as big as a briefcase, load them into the machine and watch some old comedy segments I might have missed, but
well, I mean, you're really you're like an athlete watching the game day footage or watching footage of the opponent or whatever you want to call it. I mean, that's to me, that sows the seeds of greatness, or at least success anyway, right there. Wow. I appreciate where you're coming from, talking about the early days of you being on thin ice. Naivete is, in my opinion, one of your best friends in the world many times when it comes to that. That being said, you got Dave to do some things that stereotypically shouldn't be possible. One thing I'm thinking of is if you go onto Giller's channel, there's a couple of Jeff's compilations that are there. Flunky is there, and then the actor singer is there. But you got him to actually participate in some musical numbers, and which he famously loathes and does not want to be a part of. The Mary Tyler Moore footage, begrudgingly was put on in the last week.
Oh yeah, was that hilarious?
With Michael Keaton. You got Dave to actually participate in a couple of those things. This is going to also dovetail to your musical prowess as well.
Participate in quotes. Okay. There was one. I wrote this one with Joe Toplin, but it was Dave thinking, boy, what would life be like without TV? Gee, I wonder, and then we were dancing around him and singing this, song Joe and I wrote, just, life without TV, it wouldn't be nice. No Cagney and Lacey, no Miami Vice. And, and we're dancing around Dave, and he's, ha, ha, ha. His participation was to scream. And it was a night, and Paul wakes him up and he goes like, oh my God, I dreamed I was hosting the Emmys. And it was a nightmare. But a little behind the scenes is, like when I like music, I like musicals. I was in them in high school, and so when we were doing that bit in rehearsal, Dave said to me, or maybe it was when we did another one, Election Day, Dave Letterman's Election Day, where I'm out there, straw voter, Election Day, the day.
The punchline on that one was great too.
Right, and when we were doing those, I do remember Dave said to me, "You like this, don't you? You like singing, and like he caught me. You like singing and dancing around." And I admitted, I guess I mind it less than the next guy. I admitted that. Now here's the funny thing: is I would have a little bit of an occasional running gag with Dave. I'd pitch something that he wouldn't do in a million years, and I'd say, I was thinking, Dave, maybe start the show with a song. You come out, and, you go, feeling good, crowd looks great, magic's on its way. I've written a song, magic is on its way, and Dave nod, great. Let's see the charts. We can get back to music, but I'm gonna share another one.
Please, as they come, let the stream of consciousness flow, my friend.
Okay, when we did the airplane episode, I said, I got an idea for the cold opening day. I think it's because I didn't hang out pitching with Dave too often. He would go in his office. We would give our jokes to Steve. He'd take them in. And the movie, The Late Shift, at one point, he's talking to a few writers. I liked that movie. I thought it was pretty accurate. But at one point, he was talking to some writers. And he's like, okay, yeah, don't come back till it's funny. And I thought, nope. Didn't happen. But I think we were probably riding to the airport, which is why, I was spending time with him. And I said, well, I got an idea for the cold opening is, you've lost your wallet, you see, so you don't have the money to get on the plane. He knows. Yep. And and you see a sign, children ride for free. See, and that gets the wheels spinning. And we flip to, you come up to the entrance of the plane, you got a Buster Brown outfit on. See, just the wig and the hat and shorts, and you're holding a big lollipop. See, and Dave's just like, great, love it. And some woman will get a shapely gal, maybe one of Dean Martin's Gold Diggers, and she say, "Oh, what a cute little boy!" And you jump up in her arms and nestle in, and she carries you on the plane. He's like, "Great, let's do it." Order the lollipop. So we a little fun in that direction. Anyway, yeah.
Well, hold on. Talking about car rides with Dave, I heard there's a car ride to Vegas.
Oh, car ride outside of Vegas. Oh boy, you really did your homework, didn't you? Okay, this is fun. Okay, when we did the Las Vegas shows, this is how I hoped it would be. Let's just hop around.
Awesome. Oh, good. Yeah, I like that too. I'd rather that.
I don't want to go chronological. Everything triggers a memory.
Good. Yes, that's what we want. Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, just backing up a little. My wife and I happened to be in New York City just before his final show, like 2 weeks before. And I just took a flyer and got his assistant's number and called, Dave, I'm in town. I know you're busy. I would like to come by and say hi and thanks if you have the time. Same thing Steve O'Donnell did, probably same week. And got word back, yes, that would be fine. And here's a funny thing. It was the show that President Obama was on. And
wow.
So I texted my daughters, hey, first Obama, then me. And one of them texted back, that should be Hillary's slogan. So
Okay, is this the same daughter that wrote an episode of The Simpsons?
Both my daughters have co-written an episode of The Simpsons with me. Both are my younger daughter's on the new Kelsey Grammer Frasier reboot.
Yeah.
My older daughter is a star in Nickelodeon, the world of Nickelodeon, children's TV.
Amazing. There's another Letterman writer on the
all
on
four of
Frasier
us
as
are
well.
yeah. We would not know what to do with a kid who wanted to do something useful. It's a comedy writing family. And anyway, wow. What? Oh, and I got us into we went out a week early, and Steve took me and just to scout out locations in Las Vegas.
Yep.
And one day, a group of us, also including Babs, went out to Hoover Dam to scout that. And we kept driving eastward toward Flagstaff, and there was an old off the highway. There was an old mining town, Chloride, Arizona. It's the oldest continually occupied mining town in the state, and rode a couple of miles off the highway, and it's just there's nothing there. A couple of structures, a dust, one place to get something to eat. And so we went in and we went into that place, and there was like an old upright piano off in the corner.
Mhm.
And at one point I went over to it and sat down, and I started playing, and I just sang the shadow of your smile, just like a cocktail song.
Sure.
And that really tickled Dave. Just you can imagine, well, just of course that incongruity.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You go in and sing a song that you'd hear in a gin joint in that setting. Yeah, I mean, that's
so at
fantastic.
the heart of something Dave would enjoy.
Sure.
And so when we sat down and reminisced 2 weeks before he retired from the show, that's what he chose to remember.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I appreciated that. But yeah, I also that was some of the most fun stuff on the show, was going to other cities, because people would camp out all night, in Chicago, in Los Angeles, and this is very flattering, and I'm glad, and I like the show too, but it's a talk show. You're camping out all night for an episode of a talk show. Crazy. But I was along on the one we did with Bozo.
Oh, yeah.
The clown in Chicago.
Yeah.
I guess he'd just been on forever in Chicago. So we spent the day with him.
Yeah.
And there was some great incongruous stuff in that. Sitting in a van. At one point, Dave asked him, I think this might have gotten on the, actually was shown, talking about his favorite meal. And the guy was a foodie, this Bozo. And he's just, I think a salad with a light vinaigrette. And then, he's just sort of discussing this meal. And Dave, Dave is just like, oh yeah, oh delicious. You could tell that appealed to him. And at one point, didn't get on camera, and I wish I had the picture, but we got into Old Comiskey Stadium. We just drove up, and it was, hey, we got David Letterman here. Can we see the field? Sure. They let us in, and I couldn't find it, but there is a picture of me shaking hands with Bozo out where Louis Aparicio. Patrol.
Oh, that's the kind of thing that I love. Taking one thing and putting it into another setting,
right.
A very cool setting, and then it's just character beyond character. That is a really, really neat story.
Yes, here. I won't do too many. Here's a picture of these guys: Tom Jones, me, and Liberace.
Oh, are you kidding me? Look at that kid.
Yeah, we're guests. They were guests on the show, and how about a picture? And yeah, I want to put a wreath around that and make that my Christmas card.
No kidding.
Is that the Letterman show? Just odd juxtaposition.
That's exactly right. To go back to some of the other things, the musical things. But is there anything more in the car ride with Dave? Is there anything else that we want to talk about here in the car ride with Dave?
All right, that'll do for now.
I'll do for now. Okay. Going back to the musical stuff. By the way, 86, September 18th, 86, Life Without TV. The Emmys were 3 days later, which Dave hosted. So there's the circle on that. The Late Night World of Love. Dave participated in the chorus singing. Jeff and Meryl wrote that. So there you go. And then also Late Night Anthem.
Those are the same thing.
Okay.
Yeah, what happened? that was the age of anthems, like "We Are the World" and stuff.
Oh yeah, Coca-Cola was
and-
doing it.
and
I wish I could teach the world to
Meryl,
sing, and
yeah,
Hands Across
Meryl.
America, all that stuff.
Yes, that's right. And yeah, I did Wacky jokes on both of those things. But Meryl said, "Hey, we should have an anthem," and I actually I wrote the song. I went down to where they had pianos there in the NBC Record Library, and it came together very fast. And that one just had luck behind it. You know, I wrote the song, showed it to Paul. He sort of recorded it on his keyboard. We brought in a bunch of kids, the Late Night International Children's Choir.
It's like 4 kids, I think it was something like
4 kids, yeah. 4 kids, and we shot it on one day, and then spent a couple of days editing it, sticking in a bunch of Shecky footage, the odd video clips from Rick Sheckman, and it's just a whole lot of nothing, you know. Just phrases like, you know, a thing called happiness, you know, there's a cool breeze blowing, you can feel it across the land. It's all very stirring, but and at the end, Dave joins in singing it, and it's funny him doing it because it's Dave. I'm gonna veer off on something else because
sure.
One joke that bit that's always stuck with me. It was I think they asked something like the viewer mail something like, "How come you never sing and dance?" or something. And oh well, you're in luck. In fact, there's something coming up like, and it was I wrote a bit. And it was just like, coming up, you know, Dave sings. Dave dances. Dave wears funny hats. You know, and it was, the punchline was all on David Letterman's Cold Day in Hell special. It was fun to do, and I remember shooting it. It was sort of like, okay, he was willing to pretend to sing. You know, you didn't hear, you know, and it was like, you get to the dance part, and I was like, you know, in rehearsal, I was sort of like, I don't know, Dave, you want to do a little soft shoe? And he says, no, that's not going to happen. And so what we finally figured out, okay, here, one of the ladies on the staff, here, you'll dance around. And then, okay, that checks the box. Dave dances. But just what we were talking about earlier is just what an interesting thing about Letterman, a great entertainer who eschewed so many of the common tools.
He eschewed yes, he did.
Of the
Steve O'Donnell right there, by the way.
I believe Steve O'Donnell said eschew. So
he sure did. Yep.
I'm just as good as him. No, actually, I'm not. But I'll use that word. And yeah, just what an interesting guy. So, you know, a performer who got uncomfortable if the audience applauded too much. You know, was not comfortable with it. That was a bit that encapsulated that. Anyway, it was a piece that went well. And so the idea came back around when another anniversary show rolled around. Hey, let's do it at the end of the show. In fact, let's get Tom Jones to sing it. And ask me about Tom Jones after I finish this story. But what a great memory, probably late in 1988, something around of on the weekend, Paul Schaefer and I went to Tom Jones' suite at the Sherry Netherlands to rehearse it. He had a piano in his hotel suite, and brought along the background singers, and including Melissa Etheridge and Darlene Love.
God,
yeah, and you know, Tom comes out of his room, good morning, you know, and all that, and Tom Jones, I think, was smart enough to keep it simple. And you know, I'm just going to give 100% every time I do anything, and you know, it'll all work out for me if I do that. So he starts, you know,
he's Tom Jones. Go ahead, belt it, buddy.
Yeah, he just starts, you know, he just sings the hell out of it. And I wrote for that occasion for Tom Jones. There's a spoken part midway through his song, "The Green Green Grass of Home," and I wrote something similar with, "And then I awake and look around me at the many Nielsen families that surround me." You know, they still don't know about a certain talk show that can fill the hunger in their souls. And he just brought it 100% commitment, and it was obviously going to be good. And you could, Paul Schaefer, God love him, in that sort of situation, he is so infectious, his genuine enthusiasm for it. I bet Tom Jones was in our radar because of another real happy moment. You remember before viewer mails? No, before different segments. This was supermarket finds. You know, Paul, Dave would go, Paul, do you have a song for it? And after a while, we were doing a thing where somebody would come out from behind the Paul's station.
Yeah.
And we had Johnny Mathis, Robert
to come out and
Goulet.
sing the jingle for the bit.
Right, a jingle for the bit, by far the best. But the great one was Tom Jones, and so I got together with Paul that afternoon, and Paul was like, "This guy, he's got a great voice. This is going to be great. This is going to be great." And so we thought of different words to Long Tall Sally. Barn burner for the Beatles. There, we checked that box. There was just lock up all the windows, draw up all the blinds. Time for David Letterman. Supermarket finds old David, and it was just, at the ending, he's just going, he's gonna blow your minds with these supermarket finds, and just blew the roof off. He's just great, and so it was a great bit in and of itself, and now to the extent that you might have suspected we're making fun of people in showbiz who weren't at their peak of their star power,
right?
I don't really think that's true. I think we all had genuine fondness for people like Tom Jones and Jerry Vale and all that.
Totally.
But if you suspected that at all, well, at any rate, the best revenge would be to come in, blow the doors off. I remember in rehearsal, Tom saying to Paul, asking Paul, and then I split. He says, and then I split, and Paul goes, yeah, and
that's it.
So he finishes it, high five, slaps Paul 5, and exits. And when the place finally calms down, Dave says, well, now I got to do this, stupid.
How do I follow that?
Yes. So those are happy. That's a happy example of a piece falling flat.
Oh yeah.
I'll give you another.
The highlight was Tom Jones coming in and doing his thing, and yeah, that's ironic.
I'll give you another happy example of that.
Please.
When Dave and Steve O'Donnell did a remote where they went to Washington D.C. to spend a day with a congressman, and I didn't go on it, but I was thinking, well, a bit to do. I'm thinking, okay, the Lincoln Memorial. Maybe Dave goes to the Lincoln Memorial. And this is years before Lisa Simpson went to the Lincoln Memorial. So I'm suing George Meyer. I got a great. As soon as this is done, I'm
yeah. Get the paperwork going.
On a lawsuit. Okay. Anyway. Okay. Well, no. Now that I mention it, I believe Jimmy Stewart did it, and Mr. Smith goes to Washington.
I think perhaps he did.
Okay. Never mind. So I'm thinking.
Dave also did it, by the way, in the vote song.
Dave goes to see Abe Lincoln to the Lincoln Memorial.
Yep.
What's his dilemma? And okay, his dilemma is whether or not to do one more. Every day on the show, he'd go, "What do you think? We're going to do one more. We're going to do one more joke."
That's what it was. Yes.
So you spin it into, boy, I don't know. And he leaves the studio and he's walking around Washington D.C. Gets to the Lincoln Memorial now. He's, how will I ever decide? His voiceover, so much at stake, so many people counting on it now. Here's a guy who had to make some tough decisions. What would he do? And then, close up of Lincoln. And I actually did the voice of Abe Lincoln saying,
that's cool.
Government of the people, by the people, for the people, and Dave thinks, let the people decide. And it's getting big laugh. It was we had a lot of pieces that were sort of patriotic, ended with the American flag.
It did. It touched, even though you were being ironic, it would touch that third rail of power when it comes to patriotism.
Well, half ironic. We certainly never got around. We certainly never had writers' meetings and said, how can we convince our viewers what a great country this is? Nothing like that. But we a show like SNL was still maybe in Nixon sucks, some vestiges of that kind of thing. And it was a more patriotic age, with the Olympics in '84 and so forth. And so maybe we were a little more in tune with the times, having it was an audience. It was a crowd pleaser. Go to a waving American flag.
Yeah.
Is the music.
But the punchline to that joke, though, yeah, okay.
Well, so Dave comes back in, asks the audience, "I'll let you decide. Should I do this joke?" But then when the time comes, and he does the joke, and of course, a joke cannot live up.
Never, no matter what it is.
I wrote I've got my name on the Simpsons episode, Lisa's first word, which was Maggie's first word, which was recorded by Liz Taylor. And if you recall, it was Maggie's first word at the end of the episode was "daddy." Yep. Which was kind of nice. It was kind of touching, but
it was very sweet.
Yeah, but on some message boards, it was like, "What? That's it?" And it's sort of like, "Okay, fine. You tell me." I'm not above criticism, but you tell me.
That's funny though when you can't live up to it.
What word would have blown you away?
Just like who possibly could have shot Mr. Burns that would have led up to the excitement of who shot Mr. Burns. Nobody could.
Yeah, no, my dear pal John Vitti, I think, he wrote the Troy McClure, the looking back at the show, where he said, "Yeah, so everyone was crazy thinking about who shot Mr. Burns. Then they found out it was the baby." Anyway, just
the gag that I loved out of that one was Troy McClure talking about Matt Groening, NRA for life. What's the on the digital display of the cash register? And it's Matt Groening, NRA for life, talking about his right-wing gun-toting agenda or whatever it was. Mm-hmm. I liked that joke a lot. I want to go back to a few things here because we've got a whole bunch of things that Don has given to us. Tom Jones, the supermarket fines was $10.28.87. One of the to go back to the late night theme, one of the kids certified mailed Dawn from North Carolina asking for the clip as she had never seen it before. That was kind of a neat little piece. Now to go back to LA, 85, you guys went to LA. You were talking about the show and its popularity, people camped out, all that kind of stuff. Dave applauding, or not enjoying it when people applauded too much. LA certainly wasn't a good place for that then, because they went absolutely apeshit at that point. At this point, you're there 2 years. The momentum is just going more and more and more. Are you already fielding outside offers? Like, are all of you as writers getting offered to go to other shows and things like that?
No, I wasn't remotely interested in leaving.
Yeah,
for years. Also, what if you realize at a certain point, showbiz is in LA,
right?
And all that. Yep. But no, listen, I after 2 years of doing The Simpsons, which was a great job, I'm grateful for. But you do that for like 2 years, and it's like, I don't know if I could keep doing this. I don't know if I can, spend 12 hours every day, trying to think of things for The Simpsons to say. And it does a number on your mind. Yeah. Coal miners in particular will sympathize with my hard story here. But that was, The Simpsons was a much harder job. I didn't even consider leaving Letterman for at least 5 years.
Yeah. So that okay, that's very interesting that you'd say that. I appreciate the perspective very much. We actually use the miner analogy on this show sometimes. And that's the whole reason this show exists, is because you guys would literally be mining and finding like massive gold nuggets and diamonds, casting them aside just because there's another show tomorrow night and you got to keep mining. We want to pick up some of those things, and that we're doing a great job of that today.
Well, after I've been there several years, there would be bits where Dave would go out in the hallway and walk through it for some reason or other, and he would like things to say while he's walking, but of course it's just a hallway, and he's walked down it dozens of times, and he wouldn't want to be phony and put stuff there to make a joke about, and so he'd want it to be real. So I remember there was a photo up of the Live at 5, the newscast across the hall from us. There was a photo up of them. One member of the team was Chuck Scarborough, a newscaster who had like sort of a perfect head of blonde helmet hair. So I wrote, and Dave did. He walking by it, he said like, "Oh, by the way, when I go to my barber, I just bring in a picture of Chuck Scarborough and tell him like this." And you're very kind. It was an okay joke. It's more. I remember at the time patting myself on the back just in terms of, all right, I actually thought of a joke, a new joke for this hallway. Well, if you want to talk about Dave's record collection a little, because this is what that the guy, I don't know who was in charge of it, frankly, before me, but the first year of the show, but it fell to me to do it. And I actually, it was different than, it wasn't staring at a blank page. The only way to do that in those days was to go down to used record stores, vintage record stores in Greenwich Village.
Yep.
And just get out these boxes and just go through them one at a time, and just take hours to find, and then hours of listening. I had a record player in the office, and just listen to them. And sometimes I'd dial it up from 33 to 45.
Yep. Just
to be a little more efficient. And, it was very much, all right, if I put the time in, I'm going to find the few nuggets of gold in this almost dry riverbed.
Yeah.
But I liked getting out of the office, and I kind of liked, it was just a different day. Instead of staring at a blank page,
right.
It was truffle hunting. And also just side note, I did the guys in the village who worked there, I remember, were these very amusingly persnickety guys.
Oh, I know. Yeah. The music
just gossip with each other. And I remember, and I remember one of them said, is this color peach? And the other guy goes, that is not peach. That has never been peach. That will never be peach. And I just sort of filed that away. I told that to my office mate, Jerry Mulligan, when I got back. And, for years after, we would occasionally say that has never been peach, and that will never be peach. Anyway, going through those, and I'd find something like, Joan Collins giving life and health advice.
Yep.
There's got to be something on this. You listen to the whole record. Oh, wait, what was that? And it was Joan saying, as a woman ages, she needs less sleep. 40-year-old, has 77 hours sleep. By the time you're 50, you make it by with 6. And Dave's joke I gave him was, Joan, of course, has stopped sleeping altogether. Which is the callous heartlessness of youth.
Absolutely. But to go back to something you said earlier, though, that's fun when you have a return moment with Joan Collins on Conan, or on I think that's how it originally played out. Or she comes on to then come on and make fun of herself, just kind of like the Tom Jones things you were talking about earlier. That's where Dave is actually setting a volleyball. If somebody wants to come up and
so I want to be a good sport about it. Fantastic. Listen, that one, come on, that's just mean. I'm not going to give all I'll say in our mild defense is, I felt like, especially in those early days, we were, just lobbing these rocks in the middle of the night, from our little clubhouse. And like when we won the Emmy for the first time in, I guess, 1984, we go back, you're walking by Bob Hope, going back down the aisle.
Yep.
Backstage, the next presenters were the cast of The Love Boat. I kid you not. And, just Gavin MacLeod, just congratulations, very nice man by all accounts. And you're, at the ball, governor's ball afterwards, people are there like Linda Evans from Dynasty, and you just think like, okay, these are the real showbiz people. we're wise guys out in the minor leagues. We, surely they can brush off our barbs with
sure. In that current moment, sure, they are. But then you got the people who are watching you, the Gen Xers like me, who are like, you know what? We don't want glam rock. We want Nirvana. We want you. And you guys were the ones that we wanted. You guys were the rock stars to us. You guys were, because you acted that way. And you did throw those rocks from the clubhouse. There was a whole generation of people who were like, no, these are the ones who we want to follow. And you're a pioneer of that. You're part of that. You're every bit Eddie Vedder or Kurt Cobain to comedy as they were to music.
Dave was.
Well, okay, but it's Dave and again. This is where our show comes from. Dave and Company, right?
Well, let me tell you, I've thought about it. That the show is like, at its best, it did sort of seem like a three-ring circus, and you do the anniversary shows and you put together the clips of just goofy stuff
Yep.
Velcro wall and the thrill cam and just crazy stuff happening, the dancing waters, and it would seem like, oh wow, this show is a zany carnival of fun. But the essential, the thing that made it all work was Dave's attitude, was that the ringmaster at the center of it, paradoxically had mixed feelings about the circus.
Yes.
Not exactly mixed feelings, just that he obviously approved of the nonsense.
Yeah.
And enjoyed it. And yet he is not a zany, thirsty performer himself.
No.
He has that certain reserve, and I think that's, other shows have come along, called, you're in the funny zone.
Yeah.
You're in the fun factory, that sort of thing. Oh boy, that triggers a memory. But Dave made it work. Oh boy. Do you remember the summertime showcase? What was it? Dave's summertime laugh factory. Dave's summertime sunshine laugh factory.
Yes.
I think that was Chris Elliott and Matt Wickline and Sandy Frank. I think it was their notion. It was one of the one-off theme shows. It was back in the
summertime sunshine summer special.
70s. Yeah, back in the 60s and 70s, there was
85
these summertime variety shows with some very lame comedy, some music. They weren't trying that hard. They were just something to pass the time with at the end of a long summer day. Yeah. And so we did one, and it fell to me to write the comedy sketch. And the idea for it was something like, let's look at the generation gap in the year 1999, which was then the distant future.
Yeah.
Then we got Ken Berry, from F Troop, maybe RFD, to guest host. And he was game as can be and a nice man. And it's just, he's home from work. Everyone's wearing big triangular collars. And Daryl Leifer played his wife. And he's like, oh, hey, here's your martini pill.
Oh, that's awesome.
Your neighbor, David Letterman's coming up the teleporter. Oh, David Letterman. Oh, that moocher. I wonder what he's going to borrow now. It's okay. It fell to me to write it. And I really did start getting flop sweats for good reason early on. It cost me sleep for like a couple of days. Just like, how do you do this? How do you put on bad writing?
Yeah.
Before an audience? That is a very difficult tightrope walk. And now the Simpsons did it. Like you could do that on SCTV, and the Simpsons did do it on their. Corey McClure hosted probably summertime, or Simpsons Showcase spinoff. It was Simpsons Smile Time Variety Hour. One of my favorite bits the Simpsons ever did. It was After My Time, where they did a lame skit where we've been working like beavers putting on the show. Have you wondered if we really were beavers?
Their clip shows had that feel to them.
Yeah.
Definitely.
But they you can do bad writing, but you can't in front of a live audience. Right. So we got through it, but that's when I remember is this is too hard. But
John Hartford performed on that. It was the Summertime Sunshine Happy Hour, and it was in 1985.
Yeah, we got through it. It wasn't as good as some of the other theme shows, but I'll something though I will say in fairness, there's another side to the write the broad, obvious joke. I remember there was a viewer mail response. Somebody asked, like, I have a late night T-shirt. Any cleaning tips?
Yeah.
And Dave says, oh, well, I guess you probably want to maybe watch washing it in hot water because it might shrink. Boy, I had that problem. And he holds up one that's like a late night T-shirt that's as big as a postage stamp.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think of that and I think like, well, that could get a laugh, all right. That's pretty funny, but you also think that's awfully broad and corny. That could be in Archie's comic joke book,
Yep.
And so, okay, so I put some addendum on it. He says like, hey, what do you think of that, Paul? And you cut to Paul, and we had a pre-tape of tiny Paul standing on his keyboard, going like, yeah, Dave, I wish I'd, heard that before I took that hot shower. We play, wham, 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 wham. By the way, occasionally when I'd be explaining to Paul what I wanted him to do, I intentionally lapse into, and then you go, yeah, and he'd go, you do that very well. I go, oh, sorry.
You would do Paul for Paul.
Yeah. Just forgetting myself. Anyway, and then Elmer Gorey, who would play Grant Tinker, and we could talk about that too.
Mispronounce words, mispronounce the show, things like that. Yeah.
And called Dave Tom.
Yeah.
Tom, and he like gave Dave an award for for that classic piece of visual comedy. He gave him an award. Okay, so that was a way of covering my backside, sort of like hey, look, we know this is corny, we're don't worry, and all that. We're hip, but the fact is the T-shirt got a nice, big, satisfying laugh. The audience was happy, and then Tiny Paul got an okay laugh, and then Elmer a little smaller laugh, and I left that sort of thinking, don't you don't have to be funnier than funny. Don't be so hip. Don't be such a big shot. Nothing wrong with a good laugh.
But taking it to the next level, then taking it to the next level, then taking it to the next level, where it gets maybe less, and then the last level is where sometimes the big laugh is, and you guys
didn't happen this time.
Yeah, exactly. What did I'm just looking what Elmer? Okay, Don Giller is happy that you mentioned Elmer.
Yeah,
the humanities plaque. He has
Elmer's Grant Tinker. Yeah, that I love that bit just because he was a guy who worked in the office. I think people who worked in the we were as you said, we were like a big family. There weren't boundaries between the interns and the money people and the segment producers and the writers.
And the unions for that matter too. Everybody was just all it was one big stew.
Genuinely, you had Mark Carson on your show, and I'm like, oh yeah, he was photographer at my wedding, for example.
Oh, that's
a great
fun fact.
It was very much that sort of, Mark, would you do this? Yeah, sure, you're a friend. It was very much all that sort of thing. And but anyway, Elmer was just he had white hair and he had glasses. And other than that, Grant Tinker was handsome and suave looking. And Elmer, other than that, just looked and sounded ordinary.
Yeah. If not even a little frumpy. Like purposefully, right. The opposite, the antithesis of the.
And we always got a laugh right at the top of him saying, Tom, that's what Dave's name was. And a bit that I had totally forgotten that was on the Letterman channel was somebody from the audience was getting some reward from the show, presented by Grant Tinker. And what it was a bowl full of golf tees. and Dave invited the guy to take a fistful of golf tees. So the guy reaches in, and I had forgotten this, and Elmer says, easy, like you're taking too many. And that sort of thing would just kill me. Just the notion of hey, there it is. Don Giller is holding up
the Humanitas plaque.
It was a Humanitas Award. Okay, he got a plaque and a fistful of golf tees. That Grant Tinker. I just love that. Easy. And
thank you, Don.
Thank you, Don. We did another bit where he went up we sent Elmer up to the NBC commissary, and he'd say, "What are you eating there?" And I got a Ring Ding Junior and chocolate milk. What'd that cost you? You know, $3.45, and Elmer would get out of Waterbells and lick his peel it off. Like it's on NBC. Great fun, great fun. Just using people on the show. You really seem to appreciate that we rarely strayed outside the home. Yeah, people who turned out to be good actors, like Jimmy Fitzgerald, who was a guy in the crew. Who just an older guy with a very gentle delivery, and he would do Technician's Corner, where he'd just answer questions, and the solutions were always using firearms and explosives. I think those were all written by Joe Toplin and Sandy Frank, who knew a lot about artillery. I love taking a moment to single some of these guys out, just because things like there would be like an NBC bookmobile, and if there was, here's you've all seen the Scouts Handbook, be prepared, and here's a special handbook for New York City Scouts: kill or be killed. Right, and can I just flit around, and because these names came up,
please. This is heaven. This is a beautiful show.
Well,
this is exactly what we want.
I think if I'm ever going to do it, this would appear to be the place.
Outstanding. Anytime you like, sir. By the way, standing invitation to come back whenever you want. So
I'm sure you
release the debris. This is the place.
Well, since you invited me, I sort of thought about it all weekend. So I need to do this so I can think about something else.
That's good. We are happy to be the receptacle.
But
of these thoughts.
Just everything I heard.
Okay, we're gonna end it right there. I love long form. Okay, so having the conversations that we're having with these folks who worked with Letterman that go on and on and on. This is my jam. This is what I love. I love listening to it in podcasts. I love how into the weeds we got with some of these things. Jeff, I mean, the recall that was coming back, and it was almost like certain people, Don hates it when I use this term, but it was like jazz. We were just going all over the place, and it was just such a beautiful conversation. Let me tell you, part two, just as much. In fact, part two is a little bit longer than this one here. I just appreciate Jeff Martin so much. We've gone back and forth a few times since shooting that episode. Lots of good ideas. I certainly want to get maybe him and O'Donnell on a call here and just let them go off and riff off each other as well, if that might work, or people like that, just people that used to work together and have this camaraderie, these amazing memories. I just appreciate Jeff so much. I don't know that in that episode we did a Hello Deli shout out, so let's do that. The Letterman podcast has one sponsor only, and that is Rupert G and the Hello Deli. Rupert and May over there on 53rd Street, nestled within the womb of the Ed Sullivan Theater. Head on over if you're in New York. Go have some soup. Go have a sandwich. Go give Rupert a high five. Tell him Mike says hi. And for those who would like to order Late Show with David Letterman merchandise, you still can at the Hello Deli. Go to hello-deli.com and order away mugs and shirts and all sorts of stuff. Rupert stuff, Letterman stuff. It's a consumer wonderland on a very specific plane. So anyway, thank you so much for all of the words, all the stuff going on in the background for the Letterman podcast. I'm just having a blast doing this. I'm having even more of a blast knowing other people are having a blast because of the show. That means so much to us here. Please join the Facebook group. Please like, share, subscribe here, all that crap. That is another episode of the Letterman podcast with Mike Chisholm. Coincidentally, I am Mike Chisholm. Thank you and good night.
Overcoat and underpants.